Hello. Hi. How's it going? What's going on? Welcome to the Introverts Talk To podcast. My name is Kirsten. I'm your host, and I'm here for another episode of Introverts Talk To. Somebody recently brought it to my attention that it was a little mess up in my podcast cover. Okay, there was a little blip, there was a little typo, misspelling, whatever you want to call it, in my podcast cover. I didn't notice. I've been using this podcast cover for about 2 months now, and I freaked out a little bit when that person brought it to my attention. Did I appreciate it? Absolutely. Please bring it to my attention. But for some reason, I did not notice this. I was using this podcast cover over and over, inserting it for each podcast episode that I was uploading, and I did not notice it. I swear to you, I reread this podcast cover 17 times before I finalized it. And somehow, a typo, an error made its way into my podcast cover. Why? I have no idea. I wanted to freak out. I really did. And I wanted to freak out because I hate things like typos, because I feel like it looks like you have a lack of care for whatever it is that you're working on. But that wasn't the case. I honestly, genuinely missed the typo. So I wanted to freak out. I kind of did freak out for 2.5 seconds. But then I was like, you know what? Why freak out? Why? Why do it? Because it's already there. Anyone that's seen it has already seen it. It's embarrassing, yes. It's frustrating, yes. But just fix it and move on. Fix it, move on, and we will have a fine day. I'm so sorry. Just wanted to tell you that little thing. It's gone now, by the way. It's gone. You probably won't be able to see it because it's gone. But if you have seen it and you did notice, hey. But anyway, let's get into the podcast episode. So today I want to talk about something that is something kind of that I'm working on as someone with a bit of social anxiety. And I wanted to talk about this because it's kind of a big part of my life right now. It's kind of a prominent part of my life that I'm going to have to do and I'm going to have to jump into. And it's kind of daunting. And that thing has to do with kind of putting yourself out there. If you don't know, I'm an artist. I paint. I am an oil painter. I do portraits and stuff like that. And I feel like any artist wants to get their art out there. Whatever kind of art they do, whatever they create, whether that's literal paintings or drawings or music or films or any form of creativity, you usually want it to get out there. You usually want someone to see whatever it is that you created. And the only way to do that is kind of to put yourself out there. No one really is going to come and take your arm and pull you in their direction unless that's how it works for you. But most time you kind of have to advocate for yourself. No one's really going to come and look at your work and just just pull you in the right direction all the time. You kind of have to do that for yourself, especially the first few steps, which is first of all showing people your work, which is a really hard step for me as an introverted individual. So today I want to talk about selling yourself short and why it is something that I'm working on. What I mean by selling yourself short, I'm sure you know what I mean, but let me just explain. What I mean by selling yourself short is basically not giving yourself the credit that you deserve, not telling people or vocalizing what it is that you can really do, and not giving yourself the proper credit that you deserve. And as a creative person with creative endeavors, I don't know if I'm using that properly, but as a person with creative projects, you have to do that. That's a huge part of getting your work out there in some way, shape, or form. Whether that's on social media, whether that's literally in person, whether that's networking with people, you're going to have to advocate for yourself. No one else is really going to do that for you. People have their own problems, they have their own issues, they have their own things they want to put out there. So it's kind of your job, my job totally, to put my projects, my artwork and stuff out there. So why is that hard for me? Probably because I have this thing where I'm not a fan of being the center of attention. Like, I'm not good at it. I have siblings. I am used to sharing attention. I'm not used to being the center of attention at all times. Like, I'm just not, I don't know. I'm not used to it. So I guess it kind of makes me slightly uncomfortable. And so anytime I don't have to be the center of attention, I won't, push for it. I won't advocate for myself. And that kind of trickled into my creative side. Like, there might be an opportunity for me to say, "Oh guys, look at my art. Look at this new piece that I created. Look at this." But I won't say it. I will sit in silence and I won't say anything about it because I honestly would rather pass on being the center of attention for a minute. I'm like, no one really cares. No one wants to know about that. And that's another thing. I honestly think that no one cares. No one really cares about your work, my work enough for me to grasp their attention and to point at my work and say, "Look at this. This is something that I created." And that kind of, I feel like, has to do with a lot of not self-esteem, but confidence. It's okay to lack confidence, okay? It's not, you don't have to be confident 100% of the time. I feel like it's impossible to be confident in every way 100% of the time, and that's okay. And sometimes I feel like I lack confidence sometimes. I see the value in my art, but I don't have the confidence always to grasp someone else's attention and make them see the value in my art, And that's part of selling yourself short, That has to do with selling yourself short. Something else that I have trouble with as an artist, I'll say, is pricing my work. And going back to like feeling like, oh, no one cares about my work. No one's going to want to buy my work. No, I feel like people would buy my work, but the prices that I want to price my work at, the value that I want to put on my paintings, I feel like other people would be like, "What are you talking about?" No, absolutely not. Like, say I have a painting. I have plenty of paintings that I absolutely love and I know I would have trouble letting go of, that I would price at a couple thousand. You know what I'm saying? I would price it at a couple thousand. You might be like, "Oh my gosh, that's freaking a lot. Like, what? Like, who are you selling these to?" That is what's going on in my mind. That's that little voice in my mind saying, "Kirsten, way too much. Go down like 1,000 or 2, like way too much." Okay. That's what the person in my mind is saying. It's saying like, you're doing too much. And that's not necessarily true. You should have, if there's a piece of artwork or something that you created that you think is worth a certain amount that some people might frown upon because it's not in their budget or price bracket, then you should price it at that. It doesn't matter what somebody else might think of your work, or it doesn't matter what they think your work should be priced as. It's only what you think, because honestly, you're the only one that really knows the value of your work and how much time it took and the creativity that went into it. You pricing your work at something, that's your business. And I'm telling this to myself. I'm telling this to myself in the moment as well. You shouldn't like knock down your price because you feel like some people are going to frown upon it, or someone's going to say, "Oh no, that's absolutely ridiculous." Because as much as that person might say that, as much as that person might say that's way too much money, somebody else might come around and be like, "I'll take it," Like, you never know. And I feel like it's so important to stick to whatever price, I'll say, that you want to price your work at, or like whatever value that you want to price your work at. You know what I mean? Okay. So back to selling yourself short. I feel like I do that a lot with my artwork. I'm not one to scream it from the rooftops that I'm a painter. Like, some people, I feel like they would do that because that's what they'll do for whatever they created. It's a huge part of being an artist that I didn't realize. And it's daunting sometimes to think about having to really advocate for myself. I hope I'm using that correctly. I'm literally looking it up now. Hold on. I didn't realize until like moving it, I guess, into the college scene, how much self-advocacy was rooted in arts, like how much you have to really put yourself out there. And that really freaked me out a little bit, because I know that I'm not someone to try to get everyone's attention in a room full of people. Like, I'm not that person. I'm the person that stands in the corner and watches, I'm not like the center of attention type person. So thinking about having to attract everyone's attention to my work in order for myself to be successful in the art world it's daunting to me. I really do not know how I'm going to get there. I'm working on it currently. I'm trying to start now, even with people who are close to me. I don't even do it with people who are close to me, but I should say things like, oh, I painted a new piece. Do you guys want to see? Like, I should say those things. No, I don't know. I think I'm worried about like coming off as like self-centered or like self-absorbed in a way, because I'm trying to, get everyone's attention and like make people look at stuff that I work on that I know the value in that they might not. And I feel like that's almost, I don't know. It shouldn't be self-absorbed. It's just literally me showing somebody else a project that I worked on, This could be for literally if you have a business, right? If you started a business doing something, right? You should really be shouting it from the rooftops. Like, you should be really telling people that, oh, I have a business. I have a business. I have a business. If you want to shop my business, I have a business, you guys, okay? You know what I did one time? I literally was walking into a store, right? And I had on one of my hoodies. And someone goes, oh my gosh, I like your hoodie. See, that would have been a perfect time for me to go, really, you like it? Well, guess what? I have a business and they're for sale. Here's my card. But no, I was like, oh, thank you. And I walked away. And then after I walk away, I'm so like frustrated with myself. Like, that was the perfect opportunity to either like, first of all, network and like get your business out there, and also maybe make a friend. You never know. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so crazy how I don't think about it at so much in the moment, but after the fact, I'm like, man, what was I doing? What was I thinking? Why didn't I advocate for my business for myself? Why? Selling yourself short. I feel like I also sell myself short sometimes. I don't sell myself short all the time. There are some things that I really like, I talk about, but sometimes without knowing, like, let's say you're like filling out a job application, right? And you don't want to seem too self-absorbed, right? I feel like when I fill out job applications, there's that section that asks you about your work history, like the previous jobs you've worked at, your previous positions, what you were doing and whatever. And then under that, it's like, what were your duties on the job? Like, what were you supposed to be doing? For example, I used to be a birthday party host at Chuck E. Cheese. Okay. I used to put that on my job applications, but on like the duties area, I would put a party plan, serve food, and entertain kids. That's it. But this is your time to talk yourself up. This is your time to talk about what you really did, the stress that you had to go through. Not literally, don't talk about like stressful situations, but like what I really should have put was party prep, party cleanup, party planning, food prep, child entertainment, child safety, all things like that. There was so much more that I did that I left out of the application because I was like, that's enough. They don't want to hear anything else. They're good. They got the point, But not really. I mean, go for it. Talk it up. Tell people what you did. And don't like sit there and be like, they don't want to hear it. They actually really might want to hear it. Maybe one of those duties that you talk about, they need someone just like that for their new position. You never know. So I feel like it's so important to talk yourself up. Don't leave out those little things that you're able to do just because you feel like you're being too much, Like, you're not being too much. Why do I ever feel like that? Why do I feel like that? I have no idea. Recently, I was in this group for journalism in my college, and I'm not a journalism major, but I decided to get into their group to help with their like social media pages and like to get me kind of in that space. I'm not a journalism major, but I was watching them. Journalism majors, they got a lot going on. I was watching them also advocating for themselves and putting themselves out there, and it was obvious how much they have to do that in order to, like, you know, get positions and do these things. It's an intern, and it's so much that you have to do. You really have to reach out and, like, put yourself out there. And I really do applaud them, because that was interesting to watch, and it was, like, eye-opening to watch. Like, wow, they're really putting themselves out there. And advocating for yourself is a huge part of college. And it's not good to sell yourself short in that space. If you're in a space with possible future employers, you don't want to sell yourself short in any way. You don't want to not tell them about all the things that you are capable of, because you feel like you're taking up too much space and are taking up too much attention in the room when you're really not, or being self-absorbed when you're not. And you have to advocate for yourself. You have to talk about all of the skills that you have, all of the things that you know how to do, and everything like that. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I really don't. I'm working on it. It's like a step-by-step, day-by-day thing where, like, I'll try to say something about my business or my social media profiles, but usually it doesn't happen. Actually, there was this one time where it did happen. I was at Hobby Lobby and I was buying some paint, and this guy was like, he came up to me and he was like, I have a question. Do you paint? And I was like, yeah. And he was asking me, like, some random question about which paint was better or whatever. And he was like, yeah, so you paint? And I'm like, yeah. Do you want to see my social media? I said it, and I showed him my social media page. And he was like, wow, that's amazing. And I, you know, whatever. It was really good. Whatever. I showed him my artwork, and I felt like this good feeling after. I was like, oh, okay, that wasn't that bad. But for all the times that I've actually really done that, there are way more times that I've just been like, you know, they don't want to see my social media page. Like a time where I was surrounded by adults, new coworkers actually, and they were like, you know, what's your major? And I was telling them, like, it's a visual arts major, whatever. And they were like, oh, what is that? You know, and I was explaining, and they were like, so what kind of art do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm a painter, you know, whatever, blah, you know, let's move on, you know, whatever. And the one guy, he was like, you know, you're going to have to show us some paintings, right? You can't just stand there after saying you're a painter and you're an art major and not show us your work, you know? Obviously, duh, you know, but me, I'm like, I don't want any attention. I don't want anyone to hear or see, you know, what I'm doing. Blah. Why? I don't know. I don't want to be the center of attention, I guess, for an extended amount of time. So I slowly pulled my phone out, went to my portfolio, went to my social media page, and showed them, like, the few pieces that I thought were the best, and they reacted, and then we moved on. But there was this awkwardness in the moment that I dreaded, that is honestly, it's going to be there. You just have to get comfortable with the awkwardness and that feeling of, you know, being in the center of attention. I think that's the only way to get over it, is to literally just get over the feeling of that awkwardness of being the center of attention. If you feel awkward being the center of attention, you know, you have to just get over it. Usually it's not as bad as you think it is. Whenever somebody is asking about something maybe that you're working on and you're obligated to show them, like, it's usually not going to be as bad as you think. I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know why, but it's just, I don't know. It's what it is. That's how I feel. But anyway, just put yourself out there consciously, though. Whenever you're feeling that, like, they don't want to see my work. They don't want to know what I can do. Literally, shut that feeling off and, like, tell people what you can do consciously. Like, do it or try. I'm sorry. I know it's hard. I honestly know it's hard. It's so difficult. But that's it. I'm done. I digress. Thank you for listening to this podcast episode on selling yourself short. Don't do it. I know it's hard not to, but, you know, we got to get over it. But anyway, yeah, thank you for listening. My name's Kirsten. I'm your host. If you want to follow me on my socials for this podcast, my Instagram is at Introverts Talk 2. My TikTok is at Introverts Talk 2 podcast. And so is my YouTube. So thank you for listening to this episode. Bye.